Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank everyone for coming over to Wilmington today, over to our Beach Street DTC facility. And we're going to take you through what our plans are to get this bridge reopened as quickly as possible. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm going to start this narrative from around 2 p.m. on Monday, when I became aware of a serious situation with the bridge on I-495. At that time, I made a decision pretty quickly after that to close the interstate and the bridge. And I want to be very clear that there are a lot of questions about what caused the bridge to tilt, what information did we have prior to the closure of the bridge that might have changed our actions. I want to be very clear there will be an appropriate time to deal with all of those questions. We are very interested in getting all the answers to those questions, but our primary focus right now is prospectively, how do we get this bridge back open to traffic for the 90,000 people a day who are using it. One of the other things I would like to point out, that when you close an interstate, it is a big deal. And from our analysis of our engineers' reports, we decided that we could do it safely without causing traffic chaos. And so we got the crash trucks and the cones, and within a few hours we were able to close the bridge, and we did it safely, which was something that we were grateful that we were able to accomplish. And I'll also detail some of our activities this week, but as soon as that bridge was closed, our thoughts immediately turned to, how do we get this bridge back open? And so what we were very focused on doing is getting the right team of experts in the room from across the country who could literally tell us what was going on with the situation and how we were going to be able to get open again. And so on Tuesday, and Harry, I believe, was at the bridge on Monday night from Aecom, and on Tuesday I walked into a room and we had folks from Aecom, and again, Harry is here today representing Aecom. Aecom is a multinational firm with thousands of employees, and so there's a lot of folks at Aecom that are not here today because they're busy working on the solution. And we had folks from the Federal Highway Administration, and not just our local folks, but we also had a geotechnical expert who had come in, who had worked on the issue in Wisconsin a few weeks ago, because we knew that there was a subsoil issue that had to be addressed. We had civil engineers from the University of Delaware. We had actually asked a gentleman who is considered to be an expert on this matter in terms of bridges to come down. So we literally had all of the experts together in the room to determine how we're going to get this back open. And at the end of the day, my chief engineer called me and said, we don't want to get too far down this road with the design and then have the contractor come in a couple of weeks and say, you've designed something that I can't build. And so they said there's a contractor that we know who we've worked with before in emergency bridge situations, who not only has experience with the superstructure, but also has the expertise in-house and the experience in order to deal with the subsurface issues, which they will talk about here, which are pretty significant. And so for me at that time, I did not know where the firm was based. I just knew that I had the expertise at the ready who could bring people on. And because we made those decisions last week, I want to tell you right now that the expertise, the equipment, and the material to get this bridge reopened are on their way to Delaware right now. So the part of this solution is going to involve drilling foundations down to bedrock. When you drill down that far, you need casings. The casings for these shafts were in Oklahoma and in Washington State, I believe, earlier this week. They're on a truck on their way to Delaware right now. And more importantly, and I think Harry and can talk about this some more, when you put into those shafts will go cages so that you can have reinforced concrete in there. If we had to fabricate the cages to go inside these shafts, that alone would take 6 to 8 weeks from a fabrication standpoint. But because we had the right team of people in the room, and somebody who knew that at the Tappan Zee Bridge right now, they're working on a very similar project, and they have these materials already fabricated and ready to go, they reached out, and some of those cages are on their way to Delaware right now. They'll be here later this week, so when the drilling commences, we've got the material there. So I just want people to understand that we have literally hit the ground running and are very committed to getting this bridge back open. Now, in terms of options to get the bridge back open, there's really 3 things you can do. One would be to come in and jack up the existing bridge, put a support underneath it, and put it back in place so that you can very quickly reopen to traffic. That would obviously be the first thing that we'd want to do. But as Harry will get into here in a few minutes, because of the very poor soil conditions in that area, there's, we don't want to put that kind of load on the soil, and we would not be able to accomplish the jacking effectively to get the traffic back open. The other option, and this is still something that is on the table, there is a small chance that we will have to completely tear down this section, this 400-foot section of this bridge, and rebuild a new section. If that is the case, we will be looking at later this year or early next year before you would see traffic there. And again, that is something that we are trying to avoid as an option, and that's why they're trying to engineer literally on the fly, bringing the builder in at the same time so we can avoid that. So what we've come up with is sort of a hybrid solution of putting the bridge on a firm foundation and then jacking up the existing structure in order to open the southbound lanes first, because there is less damage on that side, and the northbound lanes potentially a month later. We will know more about a specific date in a few weeks once this drilling has commenced and we understand what is going on up to 140 feet below the surface. But the bottom line is that right now we are looking at around a Labor Day target of opening the southbound lanes, with the northbound lanes to open 2 weeks to a month later. Now, as I said, in a couple of weeks we'll be able to firm that up. Could it get better? It could. But could it get worse? It could. And so we don't want to set unreasonable expectations at this time. And so with that, just as a brief update in terms of activities around the site, a lot of people have commented on the fact that there have been 24/7 operations going on down there since we started, and I want to commend some of the Delaware contractors who have been down there helping us remove that dirt. 50,000 tons of dirt was removed as of yesterday, and that was where, again, we pointed out that the bridge has begun to rebound slightly, which again gives us reassurance about getting that dirt out of there. We also had been taking soil borings over the last week. Last night they actually started tying together the piers so they act as one unit. So we've been preparing the site, we are getting ready to go, and I'm going to turn it over to Harry Roecker, who will start kind of giving his background and then take you through the solution they've come up with. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you. My name's Harry Roecker. I work for Aecom Engineering. As I say, approximately 45,000 engineers around the world, engineers, professionals, planners, construction people. My own background is a bridge engineer primarily, and relevant to the 495 project, I have worked at different times on emergency projects restoring bridges after derailments, ship collisions, truck hits, storm washouts. So I've done that both as a designer and working with the construction forces to restore the bridge. About 37 years experience. With that, I'm just going to give touch base on a background of where we're at and then carry forward. The boards are basically in order and they'll be up, but I'll work off the PowerPoint. Basically, this is an aerial view of the bridge with the piers. Just to make it clear, the bridge is basically two bridges, and there are two piers only loosely tied together. There's a small tension tie, but that's the little bar here. Each of these is a foundation. We call this a pier, and then we have an east and a west. This would be west, this would be east. From Pier 10 left or south, and from Pier 15 to the north or right here, Delaware has inspected the bridge, or forces have been inspecting it, and we have no signs of distress in any of the other areas of the bridge. So what we'll be talking of primarily is in this zone from Pier 11 to 14, where we have evidence of distress. This view is something of a exaggerated view, but it does show, it's exaggerated to show the conditions and to allow everyone to understand what we're facing. The bridge has leaned. This is only one of two hammerheads. Again, there's like a paired structure here. And what you're seeing is a lean over produced, we believe, all indications are, from a lateral force pushing against the original bridge foundation, which consists of steel piles tied together near the surface by a concrete foundation or footer. As you can see, with the leaning of the pier, there is a distortion in these piles. The piles go through soil at the top that is largely fill. I'm sorry, I'll go here. Largely fill of a mixed composition. Then we have a layer of extremely poor organic clay that is probably just the compacted, long accumulated mud from when the river used to run here. And then down into stiffer material, sand and a stiff clay and bedrock. The piles originally went down into that stiffer material and were in this loose, very poor, very consolidated, or material that can be easily consolidated and compressed. That's the organic clay. The distress that we've seen, some distress at the foundation level, and the piles are bent. Basically, the conditions we're seeing are telling us that everything in the ground is no longer reliable, can no longer be counted on for the long-term solution and for what we're using now when we want to go jacking. A concern about jacking here through this compressible material, if we tried to land basically at grade level, it would load the piles that are already compromised or potentially compromised and unreliable. And the support provided by this soil is not good. It's very springy. We would anticipate a great deal of variation, and it's just not very stiff. The solution is to sink new foundations deep to bedrock. We've designed around the materials that are available. What's being designed, what has been designed and is underway now, procuring materials and equipment, is a 4-foot diameter concrete shaft. It'll be reinforced concrete within a steel casing. The casing helps to sink the hole from grade level approximately anywhere from 100 to 140, maybe 150 feet deep to the bedrock. Basically, there will be 4 here, 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 here per hammerhead or per single shaft, so 8 per pier, tied together with what we're calling a grade beam, which is will be a concrete beam that will be constructed once these shafts are in place. The concept, and I may ask Greg to elaborate a bit on this, the concept will be jacking towers off that grade beam to get support up to the superstructure, the girders and the roadway.
Hi, I'm Greg Burkhart. I work with J.D. Eckman. We're a general contractor. We do roads and bridges. We worked on several different bridges in Delaware. We've done I-95 through Wilmington, the Wilmington Viaduct. We've done emergencies jobs for DelDOT, the Brandywine, I-95 over the Brandywine a few years back had a crack. We were called in to fix that. 10th Street, the truck ran into it. We were called in to shut that I-95 down for a weekend and restore the traffic back on that by Monday. We also done several jobs throughout Pennsylvania. Most recently, the Harrisburg truck fire that was over top of 81. We restored that traffic back in 4 days. So we also have done the Richmond Avenue, I-95 in Philadelphia. There was a cracked column. We were called in by PennDOT to come in and jack the bridge up and fix the bridge there. So we have extensive experience with this kind of work. We have 8 licensed professional engineers on staff that this is all we do. That's their job, being jacking plans and erection plans and demolition plans. We have the people in-house. So it gives us a little bit of an advantage to get answers very quickly. When I was on vacation last week and I was called by DelDOT to come up, so I had to leave my 6 boys and little kids, and Bop had to go to work. So we called up, and I walked into the meeting, and to DelDOT's credit, everybody that I knew that was an expert was there. Between HNTB, Federal Highway, Ted Zoli from Harry I've known for quite a few years, and we've done emergency work together. Okay, so That's sort of my background. I'm a structural engineer by trade. I don't do that so much anymore. I got other guys that do that, but they're much better at it than I am. But that's my background. We certainly, every aspect of this job we've done. And it's haven't had a specific job exactly like this. I don't think there ever will be. But every part of this job we've done. As far as drilling the caissons down to bedrock, installing the caissons, the grade beams, the jacking. We do hundreds of bridges a year, or at least we've done hundreds of bridges for jacking. So the concept is to put that grade beam in, put jacking towers on top of the grade beams, and then put a header beam across the towers. There we'll then put on jacks, hydraulic jacks, and typically they're 100-ton jacks. And if we need more than 100-ton, we nest them together or use bigger jacks. And in any particular northbound or southbound, there's 6 girders, I believe, and there'll be 4 piers. There'll be 24 jack locations, and we'll jacking everything simultaneously. And we'll have feedback from every jack to tell us where it is in relationship to the other jacks, so that we can get this back up to the proper height and alignment. Okay. Oh yes. You can take this.
Yeah. Okay. And Greg points out the number of jacks. One point to note. Excuse me. One point to note is for the piers that we are planning to do work, these girders run continuously across the supports, and so we have to look at it as not just one span at a time, but in fact a continuous unit. It is known as a continuous girder. And that's relevant to the jacking plan, also relevant to assessing the loads and the stability of the superstructure. What you're seeing are the 4 piers. In all cases, we are talking about going to bedrock with a new foundation because the existing foundations are deemed unreliable. There are basically 2 types of configurations once we get that new foundation in place. And on Pier 11 and 14, we believe the piers themselves above ground can be reused or continue to be used. And so we will be essentially underpinning those piers to our new foundation. In the case of Piers 12 and 13, where the leans are much more severe, we anticipated it's a better solution to get the temporary loads, or get loads and support for the superstructure to allow traffic to resume on the temporary towers, and then to take out the existing towers and build a new substructure on new piers on our new foundations. And actually the next slide shows that the other direction. Basically here again, 4-foot shafts down to bedrock, that common beam that was used to jack, and this shows that what we're proposing is what would be called a 3-column bent, different configuration, but 3 columns supporting the existing substructure.
Okay, thanks, Harry. So we're going to open it up for questions if anybody has them. Before we do, I just want to go over a couple of other items. We put this out yesterday, but we have been looking at all of the traffic options in terms of ways we can optimize routes, getting the message out to people both in the area and in the region, to, if they can, if they're coming down from New York, to stay on the Turnpike and take the Delaware Memorial Bridge across. We do have a closure on 95 northbound this week, a part-time closure between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. We had planned to close 95 and 202 for that construction job this weekend. In preparation for that, we had removed the asphalt, and what has happened under the heavy traffic is that the road is unraveling a little bit, and so we are going to have lane closures from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m., but they will be monitored. Our traffic folks have looked at the traffic counts at that time. We believe the traffic counts are low enough that the traffic should not back up, but we'll be monitoring it, and if it starts to back up, we'll pick up the closure and flush the traffic through. And so we've been getting a lot of questions about that. And so we just want people to be aware that we will be continuing to monitor traffic conditions, providing that information on our website, and just continue to provide these updates as we go along.